everyone, nice to be here. I started out my career taking a diploma nursing course. So I did that for 2.5 years while I was still mom to a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. So going back and forth to school, doing my practicum, became a nurse, and I did that to, to just fulfill this need to help people, just wanted to, actually look after others. And so that was hard with 2 little ones, but I did it. And so started my career in labor and delivery, maternity, and newborn care. So absolutely loved that part of my job. And then it just started to evolve from there. I left hospital work and did some private care nursing, nice. Occupational health nursing, which was very interesting, but was not my cup of tea.
Was it your cup of
No. So, and then branched out from there and went into primary care, which is where I am now. And so went from, doing hospital work to now more mental health care, things like that. I have 3 beautiful grown daughters. Just they're my world.
Awesome. And Tracey, so how many years do you have under your belt for nursing?
Okay, math now. So I have 28 years.
Wow, that's 28 years of experience. Actually, if we add that to my experience as a doctor, we're talking about over 50 years. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So ladies, you're really fortunate to have this wealth of knowledge, wisdom, and interaction in Tracey. Now, there's something Tracey hasn't said a lot about as she introduced herself. You've done a lot of work with women and with people. I know about pregnancy care. Can you just tell us a bit about your work with women, either clinically or even outside of the clinic?
Yeah, no, for sure. So that's where my passion started out for me, was in women's health, which led me to obstetrics nursing. But from there, when I went into primary care, I started the pilot project of helping prenatal moms. So I would do their initial visit and make sure they had the education they needed, from nutrition to everything in between. Because, for you guys, those visits are super rushed. You guys do a very good job at making sure that they know the things they need for safety and pregnancy. But the pressure to get all that information in that amount of time. So I would take a full hour because that's what the work I was doing at the time let me do. And so it was really exciting, because they just kind of gave me just a blank canvas and said, just create this into what you would like it to be.
Awesome.
So I did that, and it was I was very proud of it, because the doctors would then ask me if they could use my program to teach the new residents that were coming to shadow and things like that. So I thought they really valued the content of what I was doing, and then they'd ask if they could shadow me, and I'm like, that meant that it was meaningful. And
absolutely.
Then from the other aspect was the patients would then give feedback to the doctors. Oh my goodness, that was so helpful. She answered questions I didn't know I had, was my favorite compliment.
That's so good. Right? She answered questions I didn't know I had. And that's the whole point of this interview today, to answer a few of those questions that women have been through or are going through. We've talked a lot about our careers, about our professional lives, about our qualifications, but at the end of the day, we're also women. At the end of the day, we've also had our personal stories. And today we're going to be focusing, Tracey, on how you've thrived as a woman. One part of your job or your calling that I've actually not heard you talk about is the behavioral health counseling, which is what comes into the mental health care of patients. And I won't really let the cat out of the bag yet, but we're going to all talk about stories. So outside of the career, being a young mom with 3 young girls, going back into nursing, you had to thrive. That must have been pretty difficult for you. Tell us your story in a nutshell, your personal.
Okay. Yeah. So as a
experience, as it were.
Yeah. As a very young woman, my idea was I was going to be a mom and a wife. That was, my sister had career aspirations. I was, it'd be nice, but what I really want is to be a mom. That's what I couldn't wait to do. So then after having the 2 girls, when my second was 2 months old, I started to feel like I needed to do something more for women, more to, I ended up in the hospital with my second pregnancy for 14 days.
Oh, wow.
And I was looked after by some of the most amazing nurses, and they made all the different, and doctors, shouldn't even say doctors and nurses.
Very important too.
Yes, absolutely. I loved my doctor. If I could have packaged up and brought her to Alberta with me, I would have.
I'm jealous.
No.
Because now I'm her doctor.
But I didn't know I was going to find you.
Good.
I was doubly blessed. So yeah, they were so amazing. But then there were some that you knew were collecting a paycheck. And so the difference between how I was doing my blood pressure, the fetal monitor tracings were changed just depending on who was looking after me.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I just woke up one night in the middle of the night and I said, I want to be one of those good ones.
Wow.
I want to make a difference for someone scared and lonely and missing their little baby at home and, and looking after them. So then I said to myself, are you crazy? You're about to have another baby.
Absolutely.
How are you going to go back to school? You can't do that. So with lots of prayer and lots of things, I always would start with, well, God, if you really want me to go, then how will I afford it? And then I got full scholarship and student loans.
That's fantastic.
I said, okay, God, I guess I should go. And then it's, well, I have to have someone reliable to look after my babies. Because I really didn't want to leave them, but I also knew I needed to do more for their future as well. And then I ended up with a relative who said, hey, I'd love to look after those babies. So I was like,
you talk about thriving.
So I said, okay, God, I guess I'm really supposed to go. So it all just worked out to that. And I look back now and I'm like, how the heck did you do that?
Absolutely. That's called thriving. You thrived, Tracey.
She thrived
because she refused to look at the obstacle in front of her. Because who wants to go back to school with 2 little babies?
Yes, and I made sure I made the commitment that they would never go to bed without me reading them. Well, I didn't even read them stories. I made up stories.
Aww.
We prayed.
Oh, good.
They'd say their little prayers, and then I made up stories, and there was always a Princess Jessica and a Princess Jerica in the story. So
those are the names of her girls, by the way.
My 2 older girls. My youngest one wasn't here yet.
Yeah.
And then I went back to school when she came and finished out, because that was diploma nursing, and then I finished out and got my degree a few years later. So if I had to pick which one was harder, you couldn't, because they both were equally challenging. But you thrive when something is so meaningful to you. You just find a way to thrive, right?
Absolutely.
It's hard, you're tired, there's papers to be written and babies to look after, but somehow you do it, and then you look back after and you're like, oh my goodness, how did I do that? But look at who you become for being through that.
Absolutely. Look at who you become. So what's it, ladies, you need to thrive from? Look at who you become. Just like Tracey did. She was like, I want to be this nurse. I want to look after women that are pregnant. I want to bring that special touch into my career and my profession. But then I have 2 young kids and I still have to make it work. And she did, because she looked at the end. So I don't know what that is for you, the end that you're facing and you're thinking, oh my God, this is an impossible mountain. Thriving is all about looking at the end result and not the obstacles that lead to it.
Right, really. Because there'll be obstacles. No matter who we are,
exactly.
No matter what we've been through already,
exactly.
There's obstacles.
There are always obstacles, and now Tracey has been a nurse for 28 years. She's wonderful, flourishing. A lot of other things have evolved even after that training, and we'll talk about that later. Let's come back to the personal part about thriving. Over a year ago, I referred a client to you, and she was going through a lot of stresses. I think she was in her 70s, am I right?
Yes, correct, yeah.
Bring us up to scratch about that lady. She needed to thrive.
Yes. Yeah. So when she walked into my room, she was the opposite of thriving. She felt her life was just she was existing, she told me.
Wow.
She came in with her best friend who really just talked her into coming. You had asked her to see me, and she was going to cancel.
Wow.
And so her friend said, no, you need this. So she came in, and she was teary, she was crying, she didn't know like even what to say. So I just, as in behavioral health, we're not counseling as much as saying, let's find out where you're at and some strategies that we can work on so that you can start to move forward and look like you can even think about moving forward.
Yep.
And so that's just what we did. She shared her story with me. She was reading a book called A Gaslight Effect by Robin
Effect.
Robin Stern.
Yeah.
And because her friend kept telling her that she thought that's what was happening to her in her relationship. So she opened up and shared a lot about her relationship and what was happening and how she was being treated. And so, the very first thing that we talked about was how she could start to look after herself, because that's really the only control that we have. I explained to her we can't control his behavior. We can only control
our behavior.
Yeah,
and how we react to it,
how we engage in that behavior,
or
walk away, or our lack of boundaries and what that does to us. So because again she was coming in such a very low place, you have to be. It's like you have to have milk before pablum.
Absolutely.
So definitely I just kept it on let's do some small little activities between now and next week, right? So it's what are the smallest little activities you can think of that are meaningful to you that you can do between now and next week. And so then she came a week later. So I thought she's reading this book. I don't know what it's kind of feeding into. So I ordered the book on Amazon and I did a speed reading over the next week so I could get an idea of what messaging she was getting and what was happening for her. So definitely based on this book, her partner did exhibit all those things. Those symptoms. So we worked a lot on boundaries because when you're living with someone who does have narcissistic tendencies, you have to have really, really strong boundaries. And so we started talking self-care, positive self-compassion, and boundaries. And so fast forward just a few sessions, and I started to notice subtle differonces. Her friend didn't have to come with her.
Nice. She started coming alone.
She came alone. We would talk about doing those little things for ourselves. So she came in and would have her hair curled, where when she first came in,
she never did her hair.
No, she looked like a sad little old lady.
My God.
When she came in. So after a couple of months, she heard her job before was hairstylist, hairdresser.
She forgot all about that in the pain and trauma she was going through.
Forgot who she was at all.
Oh my God.
And so she came in and I'd say, oh my goodness, your hair looks so lovely. And she goes, oh, thank you so much. And then she started coming with a little bit of makeup on. And then she just had a brightness. And I mentioned that to her one day. And I said, oh my goodness, you look so lovely. You just brighten up my room. And she goes, oh, that's so nice. And so about 6 months in, we were having a conversation, and she said, I have to tell you something. Wow. She said, my life before I came to see you had no color.
Wow.
She said, it had no color anywhere, Tracey. Wow. She said, I didn't see any hope. I didn't see, and I didn't do that for her. She did that through the work we did together. Absolutely. So it's not me.
No, but
she engaged. And so, and she was one of those ones that if I gave homework, she went home and she did it. And so she said, yeah, my life has color. I have to tell you, she sets boundaries.
Wow.
She hasn't decided exactly what her future looks like, but she's taken back
some control.
Her control as far as, and again, a lot of it for her was learning not to engage in the behavior, not to verbalize things back and forth, to say, okay, that's how you feel, and go off to her space.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And she's doing so much better.
Over a year later. It's
been exactly a year now, and I just saw her not too awful long ago, and she'd purchased some new things for herself, and that she had not done that in a long time. And she's going, where'd she tell me this week she's going to a painting class to teach herself how to paint.
Do something different.
Different, yeah. We talk about that all the time on our meaningful activities list.
Nice.
She goes, "You're going to be so proud of me." She said, "I'm going to learn how to paint this week." And I'm like, "Yes, I am proud of you."
Yeah, absolutely. And I am so proud of her.